Let's get on with it. Now you can hear me. Hello, it's me. It's Craig, Fludded, and I'm super chuffed because I don't have any friends, but I have one. So,
really?
Oh, so I bring your microphone up before you say anything. Can I do my introduction first, and then you can talk? This is why I don't have any friends, because I shout at them. All right, your microphone's up. You can speak.
Thank you.
But nobody knows what you look like yet.
Oh.
Do you want to see him? This is my friend. Oh, he looks a bit sweaty, doesn't he? I thought, and now there's a reason for that. Are you sweating?
Yeah, it's the effort of being your friend.
You look like you're dripping. I think it's the harsh lighting. I haven't put a soft light on you,
It's
but
the professional studio you got here.
oh look, and I'm kind of obscured by whatever this is. Where's the camera? Oh, it's the light. So already a professional setup. We've just come back from watching Indiana Jones. I keep wanting to say the Temple of Doom, but it wasn't. It was called Indiana Jones and the
Dial of Destiny.
Was it? Although nobody ever refers in the film to it being the Dial of Destiny, I don't think.
No, it's got some grand name.
I have to fix that. Hold on. Look at Phil for a second. Tell him about the film, Phil. Tell him the plot. What's the plot of the film?
Right, the plot of the film is Archimedes made a Dial of Destiny which could predict where a fissure in the fabricus time was so that people could travel through the fissure to arrive at another time. The Nazis want the Dial of Destiny so they can go back to change mistakes that Hitler made and therefore win the war and become the supreme power, own the world. And Indiana Jones doesn't want that to happen and he tries to stop them. But obviously he can't
Keep going.
defeat all the Nazis in the 1938 and 1969 on his own, so he needs some assistance.
Was it 1969? I was wondering exactly the year. I knew we had Magical Mystery Tour playing.
And the whole sequence of the moon landing.
Oh, I just thought they were talking about something that happened years ago. I didn't. Well, of course.
Because you saw the...
Was that 68, the moon landing?
No, 69.
Right, well, I fixed it a little bit.
Yeah, it's good. Anyway,
So, let's talk about it, shall we?
Well, the moon landing, well, yeah, apparently 3 astronauts, Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear. Yeah, that's about it. What do we think of the film? Well, I have thoughts about it, but let's see what you thought of it first, Phil. You're a bit of a fan, aren't you? I'm going to get my microphone so it's closer. You're a bit of a fan of it,
Well,
the whole genre.
Yeah, well, I mean, super. Indiana Jones is just fantastic action adventure, really, isn't it? But I was waiting all the time. I remember the trailer had this really nice moment where he almost gets the fedora on, and the silhouette of Indiana Jones is so clear, which is why the character works so well. The hat, the jacket, and the whip. And in the trailer, he kind of got into that outfit, and you saw the head. It's really rousing. Oh, that Indy's back. And I was waiting for the whole film for that moment and never really got it, where you think, wow, yeah, we're back into, that action adventure of the 1980s or whatever. It never happened.
I think when you've got a franchise like this, every time you make a new film, like a sitcom, it should reset. And pretty much you just get the same film again, but it's reset. Yeah, there's doffing of caps.
Or fedoras.
See
what I did?
Trilbies, woolly hats. Doffing of headgear and wear to past sort of films, but essentially I think it should reset. And I think that to a certain extent there was a lot of us assuming I'd seen all the films before, which I probably have, but I couldn't really remember. I don't know if there's a lot. I don't know if the word a lot. I don't know if there's a lot. There's a little bit.
I don't think it relied on it. I mean, there's a couple of little nods, a couple of odd mentions.
Right at the end, especially.
But yeah. But I don't think, the action really relied on knowing it. And it set itself, it kind of reset itself, as, Professor Archaeology. It was quite a bit of it. He's setting up his life, his situation, which the other films did. So it kind of almost reset it. You didn't need to have any previous knowledge of the films, but yeah, and it's almost like retelling of the original stories, but it wasn't. Thank you.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
It was a kind of retelling of the stories, but it wasn't retelling a story that was as good
No.
or as well thought out, or I don't know, as interesting.
It's like they were like everything was set up to like say goodbye to him because of the ending. It's like, let's set something up which is introducing messing with time. And obviously loads of spoilers, assuming everybody who watches this. And by the way, anyone who's watching the live stream, Alistair has said, is this the new Kermode and Mayo? Well, Kermode and mayonnaise, probably. But no.
That's good.
Thanks, mate. I thought of that just right off the cuff then.
Which one's the commode?
Yeah, well, you're the Kermode.
Commode.
And I'm the... you're also the Mayo, because I'm brilliant, obviously. No, what was I saying? It was brilliant. The point I was just about to make was brilliant. And it was...
setting up.
Straight off, setting up... Did you say it didn't go anywhere?
Well, it didn't go anywhere as interesting as other films. But yeah, no, go on. Sorry. Go on. Alistair, don't distract him with your comments.
So we started the film looking at a sad alcoholic. Did you get that he was alcoholic?
Yeah, very grey.
Well, he's old. We saw his muscly yet sagging frame.
He's that grey tweed that he was wearing.
Yeah. All right. You think they were doing that outside? Yeah. And he was kind of washed out. The cliched. Thanks very much for your time, Indiana.
And
here's a clock. Which just wouldn't happen because the guy is an international legend by that point, I would have thought. He's like famous all around the world. In fact, he was in the previous films very famous. So the kind of like the way he was treated at the end when he left and he gave his clock away to somebody and then he was approached by, what was her name?
Fleabag.
What was her character's name? I don't even remember. It doesn't even sink in what her name was. I thought, I don't know if I want to talk too much about her because I don't want to sound like I'm just having a go at her because, well, I should really because she single-handedly ruined the film for me anyway. Just how many women did you count in the movie? I counted 2.
Who was the other one you counted?
I don't know the name of these actors because I'm not really that much up with. But his old girlfriend, his wife, turned up at the end.
He's kind of like the secretary woman who was shot.
Yeah.
There was other women.
Oh, you're counting the woman who got shot?
Yeah, which I've...
But she said, all she says is, hello, or whatever it is.
Yeah, Doctor, well, actually, I think that was a typical thing of some of these films where characters are disposed of and you feel you should care, but nothing's been... In a better telling of the story, you'd have been slightly more invested in that character that when they're just brutally shot in cold blood. And actually, she was running away from the Nazis who just shot her in the back.
Well, just the fact that people were getting shot is something. There wasn't any blood. You never saw any blood.
Well, it was that cartoon-esque,
yeah,
to the action adventure. But yeah, disposed of without really you caring about the character. When you think, a better telling of this story, a better script would have invested something in her to see the sadness.
Well, like to actually care anything about her.
Yeah.
Did you care about anybody?
Well,
I don't know if I did.
Well, obviously with Indiana Jones, because you got that 4 movies investment into his character and also into the status of Harrison Ford and things like that. So yeah, you cared for him.
So we went from his that the opening. You always talk about the opening image of a movie, and the opening image of him was he's sort of a worn out guy. He's lost his wife and his kid.
Actually, not at that point, because didn't it open with him in the Second World War, the younger version of him?
Oh, yeah. So massive spoilers, obviously. That whole sequence at the beginning I thought was quite good, if maybe a little long. And there was little things that were wrong about it in that, just the geography of people popping up at certain places. Like how on earth did they get from there to there so quickly? And but the purpose of that was to set up the
dial.
The other guy who was with on top of the train.
Oh, yeah.
Come on now.
Detectorist.
Detectives. Toby Jones.
Who's
Right, I've got their names now. We've got Antonio Banderas, we've got Toby Jones, we've got a guy called Boy Holbrook, Ethan Ishmore, and some dude called Mads Mikkelsen. I'm joking, I know who he is. I'm not that stupid. Guy called Harrison Ford's in it. John Rhys Davies, Karen Allen, and of course, Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
I thought she was fine.
Oh, she was awful. And she wasn't awful, actually. That's not fair. That's not true. She was fine. You're right. She was absolutely fine. Was she brilliant?
Well, actually, in terms of if whoever you're going to cast as a sidekick to Harrison Ford in an Indiana Jones film can't be any more brilliant than he is. You are playing second fiddle and a supporting role, and I thought she did that really well. But
what about so in previous films, the supporting roles or the like the female lead, I guess, has been sort of pretty women that he's kind of like had some sort of romantic entanglement with, whereas this wasn't that.
Yeah, there's often a bit of sexual tension in there and things like that. But
there was none here at all.
But then you are bringing it into, there were perhaps a bit more damsel in distress in the past. You are bringing it a bit more into the 21st century now.
Here we go.
No, seriously,
here it comes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, inevitably, if you're going to make a film of something that was around in the 80s, mainly, you are going to, you perhaps want to update its gender politics slightly. Not saying anything wrong with the past films, but, things have moved on since then. And I think she's kind of a good example of that. I mean, and it was done without, she wasn't taken over as it wasn't like he was past it, so she has to do all the action adventure, which I think in the Kingdom of Skulls, the last Indiana Jones film, where he was given like a young, I think it was a son, a sidekick, and he got the impression they were doing that because they thought Indiana Jones was past it, so they needed someone young to do all the stunt work.
Yeah.
She came in, but she took she was an active hero in herself, but she didn't take over the action from him, which I thought was really good. I don't know at what point she was a baddie, then she turned good, but I can't remember what point of the story act that happened.
I thought she took the action away from quite a lot, actually. She saves him several times. When they go diving, it's her hand that reaches in. She turns around, goes back to save him because he's going to die.
What's that? Yeah, I didn't think that was that clear, actually, but yeah.
Yeah. I think there could be a point where they look at the edit and go, there's too much of that. Who's the hero in the film? It's not clear, I don't think. Is it her? Is it him? She says she sits down with the young lad, what's he called, Teddy, and says, Teddy, I'm in charge here. And I think that's true. That's the railway thing. And I think that's true because that conversation was put in there to remind us, really, like she's in charge, and are we led to believe that she's just leading him on, and she doesn't care about Indiana. And the reason I'm talking about this is because you're talking about this giving it a modern edge, but I don't see why you cannot have two characters like having sort of sexual attraction. There was none of it in a film, and many would argue that it's important to have that in a film, isn't it?
Well, no, I mean it worked. It worked very well in the other Indiana Jones films. That sexual tension, where he's got it's like he's battling them as well as the bad guy.
But don't you think it's important that there's an element of are they going to end up together or not? What replaced that?
I don't. Nothing replaced. I don't think it needed replacing. For me, it didn't seem to be. The film didn't seem to be missing anything because there wasn't that sexual tension there. Actually,
I see that's interesting because like maybe you're more tuned to the modern audience than I am, because for me it was missing. If I was producing it, I would definitely, even though not that a producer has any power these days, but I would definitely be keen on. Saying, look, we've got to have people falling in love in this. There's got to be. Where's the stakes here? The relationship was goddaughter and him. Where were the what did it matter if either of them died? What were we going to lose?
Well, nothing. I mean, the thing was a dial of destiny. I think, if she
that's a MacGuffin.
She perhaps was disposable as a character more than he was, but I don't. I mean, it might have been odd because he's an 80-year-old man now, so maybe the sexual tension wouldn't have worked so easily, because you think, well, why is she attracted to this much older?
You might have a point because when at the very end when he meets his wife again, it's a bit cringe. The kissing elbows and stuff.
I think it is, but that's because we're not used to seeing that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with seeing people in their 80s romantically together, but I think it's slightly cringe because we're not used to seeing it, and there's no reason why we shouldn't see more of it. Let's not be ageist about this.
Why not? Why not be ageist about it?
Because it wouldn't not encourage prejudice. I mean,
just because old people are not as able and capable as younger people, though. There's no prejudice about it. That's just a fact, isn't it? You can't go pretend. I mean, you're right in terms of like a romantic story. What's the film with? Is it Glenn Ford where he's picking raspberries or something? One of these films that's got one of the old Hollywood actors, two of the old Hollywood actors getting together one final time, and it's a romance. You have those, but this wasn't. I don't know. He was an action hero in his 80s. He's still jumping about with his hat and his jacket on, and but she could do everything. She can dive. She can drive tuk-tuks at top speed through the streets. She doesn't get phased. She's never frightened. I was actually surprised she got frightened when there were centipedes. Actually, I was like, oh, it's the first time I've heard her scream, and him too, because obviously anything snake-like, and he's terrified. And she could do absolutely everything. She knew the whole history. He was totally unneeded in terms of relaying any of that part of it. She was absolutely flawless. And worst part of it all, her character was exactly the same at the end as it was at the start. I didn't see any growth there, apart from this. Oh, by the way, I sorted it out for you to be back with your wife as well. That's another amazing thing about me. She was the hero in it. And I don't know if there's like a passing of the baton to her for future films or something. But I don't know.
Well, yes, I mean, she became the villain at one point, didn't she? Because she had the Dial of Destiny. She took it, was it to Marrakesh? And it was up for auction, and she was there, and it wasn't. And then at some point it shifted that she was on the same side as Indiana. I can't remember at what point that happened, where she was no longer the person he was tracking down because she had it. They were both trying to find it together. I don't know what point that changed, but so she changed sides. She suddenly had more knowledge about she remembered her father's notebooks, but for a large part of the movie she was in it for the money, for what she could get out of it.
Well, that's what she said to the kid, but the kid didn't believe her. Maybe that's true. So anyway, in summary, what did you think of the film? Or, sorry, did you want to say something else?
Actually, there's a number of bits where it was just slightly lazy storytelling, I thought. There's a bit where you mentioned the creepy crawlies, which was great Indiana Jones moment, but it lasted 30 seconds. It was, get them off me. And we did.
Yeah, the stakes. There was no stakes. Yeah. I never felt there was any stakes at any stage. I was hoping. I don't think I'm supposed to hope for her to die as soon as possible, and the little kid who was just annoying. Yeah. And you don't shave. Yeah. You had a moustache, shave it, because you're not old enough to grow that.
Yeah, it does. Well, yeah, that didn't really spoil it for me. There's a bit where...
By the way, if the little lad ever sees this, you can't... I don't think you can really have a go at kids actors. I have in the past.
He did it really well, actually. It was a good character. I mean, he acted it fine,
What was his purpose, do you think? What was the point of having him in it?
What, just another sidekick? Again, it's a throwback to old films. And it was
They've always had a kid, haven't they?
Yeah. But I was just thinking of it that again with no stakes. There was suddenly a character at that time where the Darcy character suddenly lit a cigarette and a big thing was made of it. Then 30 seconds on, she needs a light for the dynamite. And I think, well, why couldn't it have been sort of planted in earlier on in the film that this guy was a smoker? Just so
I thought the lighter thing, like the guy, they're on the boat. I think you were asleep at that point. By the way, we both had a nap at some point in the film. But on the boat, there's a bit where one of the guys in the boat says, "I can't find my lighter," and then the kid and she looks at the kid, and does a smile, and he's got it. I thought that lighter was setting up the lighter for the dynamite bit.
Yeah, Chekhov's gun.
But it never happened.
No. Did it come back at that goal, that lighter?
The lighter?
Well, that's why I had to ask for a light or something,
because he didn't have a light.
Because the kid...
How did she... Oh, who lit it then? It was so... Who cares? And it wasn't she absolutely... She knew everything. She could translate the thing, and she wasn't afraid at any stage. She had no fear. Women aren't scared of stuff. I think there's just a little bit of that at play, and I think that will go away because if you think about like characters like who have we had in the past in movies, I made a list here. Ripley in Aliens, Cagney and Lacey. Ripley got scared. You can be scared and strong.
Oh yeah.
Cagney and Lacey.
No one ever did it.
I thought of those two.
Well, that was true. No, but that was true.
Wonder Woman, Tasha Yar from Next Generation. She was tough. All Klingon women. Captain Janeway. It was a. I didn't have very long to think about it, but I'm thinking like these are characters who are strong women.
Ray, man, what's your name? Ray Skywalker.
Oh my God, yeah. Was she ever afraid of anything, or she just make jokes all the time? I didn't at any time think the
character. She was afraid of plot and character development.
Yeah. She was afraid of being asked to do more. Anyway, so in summary, I didn't think it was as bad as people have been saying. Although I think technically it's a flop. It's not made its money back. I don't think it will in the passage of time make its money back, but it's not done great compared to other. I mean, I don't think it's a bad film. I don't think it's as bad as other films that I've seen. Although I criticise all those things that are happening with what's her name, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just the start of their people are testing the waters of what they can and can't do, and I think they're learning that. Well, how can we? I think they'll go back and think, well, how can we have strong female characters in the lead, but we don't have to make them completely unafraid of things, or there's nothing wrong with showing vulnerability in your lead characters, and we had it in Harrison Ford's character throughout all the films. He was afraid of stuff. He didn't want to die. He never wanted to be cut in half. He never wanted to be set fire to, whatever they tried to do to him. He didn't want to be run over by a huge ball. He was running out, and quite often clearly showing that he wasn't. He was out of his depth. Yeah. He always showed himself being out of his depth and getting it wrong all the time. She never got anything wrong. She could translate it. She knew exactly where it was. She knew she could work out precisely what she had to do. If Harrison got stuck, she was there to save him. And by the way, I'm going to get your wife back. I thought I thought the ending of the film was much better if he had stayed on the island. And she'd left him there. I thought that would have been a superb ending, because then they can go back and make another film where they find his remains, or they find something that he's done that affects that will be found in the future.
It was going somewhere really interesting. Yeah, the only nice bit was he just reached out and grabbed the fedora at the end. It was a nice closing image of the hat hanging up, like the literal metaphor of he's hung up his hat.
Wherever I lay my hat, that's my home, that sort of thing. Is that what you mean?
Well, I think I've hung up my hat. That's it. I've retired. But then he just hand grabs the hat off.
Oh, the implication being it's not the end.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice. And
it is the end.
Whether or not it's another film, but in the Indiana Jones story goes on. And I thought it was really nice. But yeah, to be honest, you think about this strong female character, it's got Lucasfilm written all over it in that respect, hasn't it?
It has, and I think it's good that. I think it's good that we're seeing it, and I've certainly changed my tune from like being almost angry about it to seeing intersectional feminism or something like that in films. And not because I'm not a feminist or I don't support feminism, it's because I don't like having fingers wagged at me when I'm just going to be entertained at the movies. And I didn't think that was happening in this. I didn't see any men hate in it. I just saw this character who was perfect in every way, and just stays the same throughout the film. And I didn't really. I would have thought that she's an experienced writer and director herself who should have spotted that. And these people are top end movie directors, and I think it's inexcusable for them to not see. We need to show much more vulnerability in her at the start. We need to see her being a little bit nervous about stuff right at the beginning of the film and unsure about where she's going to go and needing his support, and then slowly seeing it switch over towards the end. Then I would care, but also her being reliant on him to a certain extent. But they just won't do it. It's like, no, we can't show that. That's not right.
Is this the first Indiana Jones film not directed by Steven Spielberg?
I have no idea. Should we know that? Do you want me to find out?
Because
keyboard's over here. You keep talking. Phil.
Filling, right? Yeah, well, because I mean, Spielberg co-created the character and the idea. You got this, constant fish out of water. He's an academic, not a hero, not an action adventure character. And archaeology is kind of a very slow, laborious, painstaking occupation, not inherently excited in itself. And then Serenity he's out of the depth constantly in these exciting situations he gets into. And I think, and he's got that vulnerability, and maybe that was integral to the story that Spielberg and Lucas created. That kind of got lost when other people at Lucasfilms took it on.
Well, quite often the motivation to make a new film is just money anyway. I mean, the franchise is going to continue. Spielberg directed the first 4 films: Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Terrible title. And then James Mangold is a great director, directed this. I think, like, from a directing point of view, it was fine. It was like, it all made sense. And I think maybe his hands were tied. He must have known that they were messing up in terms of managing how we felt as we watched the film. I just think it was a balls up. But I also didn't understand what was happening sometimes. You know, the bit where he's in the wreckage and he's been attacked by all these eels. I didn't really understand what was happening half the time because it was so cutty and so mid-shotty, and because he's in a confined space, I guess it had to be. But I didn't really understand.
Yeah, and actually,
what was happening.
Another thing, modern films versus the old films, is in the old original films had practical effects, so it's either there in the studio or model shots. Now, when you got CGI, it's almost like too fast-paced and too CGI. Is there often when you can't recreate it because it's not possible to do it, and therefore it loses plausibility. There was some, in the original train sequence, there were some things where you think, oh, if this was a practical effect, it'd be much more convincing than this CGI version, because I mean, okay, get a much more impressive shot, but it's not real.
But also, there were at one point they were running across the top of the train. It was like there was wind or speed or momentum wasn't even a thing. They were just like skipping across it, like, obviously it looked like they were blowing in the wind or whatever, but it was pretty unconvincing. And the eels thing again, I remember seeing one bit where you see a fraction of a second of an eel and it's straight at the lens with its jaws open, and I'm just thinking, there's no way you could capture that type of eel engagement. But how would you probably couldn't even do a scene like that. It would just be like throwing a bunch of eels on him and going blah. And also the other thing I noticed is when they're diving, just the audio was driving me nuts. It was just really, I just thought the audio was really bad. When I say audio, the sound effects, it was blub, 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 blub. I don't know. It just stuck out for me.